but Kristen Press, who went to the national team from my club as well. And a lot of them would come back and play during the summer. They would come and train with some of the older club teams. So we got to train with some of the players from the national team or top 10 D1 schools, and they would come train with us. That I'm like, I almost looked up to them more because it was more tangible to me, and they weren't a famous person. They weren't a celebrity. Obviously, Kristen Press eventually became one, but it almost made it seem like, wow, this is actually more attainable for me than just seeing Mia Hamm on screen. Yeah. I've gotten to play with this girl and I beat her to the goal. Okay, so is it doable for me? Like Mallory Pugh, I played against her. Remember, she used to dribble the entire team and score a goal. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. She's starting for the U.S. Women's National Team.
Closer. This is your time. Hit record on your crooked life. What's your story? Hey, say the words out loud. Mike and Scott gonna crack that crowd. What's your story? Turn it up, let's go. Every voice, every scar, every road. What's your story? Mike and Scott. Let's talk.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the What's Your Story podcast. I'm Scott Leese. This is my good friend and co-host, Mike Lindstrom. What's going on, bud?
Another day, another way, baby. Let's get it.
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's get it.
Wait till you hear about the unique way that our next guest and I...
Is that part of the story behind the story?
It is part of the story behind the story. It also involves you a little bit.
Uh-oh. I can't wait to hear this.
It involves San Diego.
You didn't tell me any
That's
of
your
this.
roots, San Diego.
We didn't tell me any of this stuff.
Yeah. I'll give you the quick breakdown.
All right, let's go.
Okay. So our next guest, McKenna Doe, she works for the client of my consulting business. Mm-hmm. So we're just chit-chatting a little bit, and turns out she played D1 college soccer with her twin sister. My college teammate from the 90s was the head coach at USD when her and her sister played there. And we didn't know any of this, obviously, beforehand, so we just...
So how'd you guys obviate that between each other? How'd that come about?
We'll have to ask her.
All right.
Welcome to the show, McKenna Doe.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I think it was on Slack. I think the moment you had put 2 and 2 together, because I had told you, I played soccer at USD. And I don't know if you knew how old I was at the time. So I don't know actually at what moment you connected and you were like, was Ada Greenwood your coach? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, how would you know that? And you're like, I played soccer with him. And was it college?
In college, yeah.
With him? He's your teammate.
Yeah, he was my teammate.
Kind of roommate. Turns out, yeah, he was the coach while I was there for several years before I actually joined the team my freshman year. And then we got a new coach after that fact. But that was it was over Slack at work.
Yeah, it was just like
2 and 2 together.
Wow. Mind was kind of blown.
So USD, huh?
Yeah.
So I went to UCSD.
Oh, okay.
So we had a lot of friends that went to USD. And I went to law school at Cal Western. USD had a better law school.
I had friends that went to Cal Western as well.
So we have their law school is way better than our law school, but a lot of USD friends, a lot of USD. You still have a 619 cell phone?
No, so I'm not from San Diego originally. I'm from Orange County.
Okay.
Grew up in Huntington Beach, which I could.
Well, let's get that. We start off every show by just trying to get to know people, and I'll give you a chance to kind of tell your story, who you are, how you got to where you are today. So what's your story, McKenna?
My story. So 28 years old. I'm born and raised in Huntington Beach, California, but I actually live here now. So I moved, and I can get into that later as to why. But yeah, grew up with an identical twin sister, older brother, great family, very sports oriented. So that's kind of what led me to soccer eventually. But ever since I could remember when I was little, I was always outside riding bikes with my siblings, playing catch with the football, baseball, soccer, you name it. I was doing it all from probably the age of 4 years old and onward. Soccer was probably the one, it was the one that eventually stuck the most just because I had, the most fun doing it. I like how fast paced it was. I over-indexed on the skill set in that sport in comparison to softball. I did every sport. My parents were like, go into everything. You're in tennis, hockey, softball, soccer, lacrosse. Like, just try it all and see what sticks, because they just, at the end of the day, they wanted us to have fun, and it didn't matter about putting us in any specific boat. I mean, we did karate, we did dance. It was just like, okay, now we've tried it all. What do we actually like to do the most? And where do we see it taking us the furthest? And that ended up being soccer for my sister and I around the age of 8 or 9. We got recruited by a local Huntington Beach club team to come play. So we were doing the normal AYSO. That's what everybody gets thrown into as a kid. So yeah, the coach ended up coming and watching a game, and he was like, yeah, I want you guys to join the team. And we were like, we didn't even know. We were like, okay, cool. So obviously we found out club is pretty much the route for at least women's soccer to get to play D1 and eventually on to play professionally. So yeah, pretty much spent the rest of our middle school, high school years playing competitive club soccer. And at the end of the day, I loved the sport so much. Scoring goals was my favorite aspect, but it also taught me so many things about how to be a leader. I was a team captain. I played attacking mid and forward, so I wasn't as much of a defensive player. I really loved it was almost like a high. My serotonin was just boosted every time I hit the field, and I just wanted to be the go-to person to assist the goal, to score the goal, or to save our team from getting scored on. I just loved to be on the field. That's where I lived.
So what was it like getting recruited and being on the same team with your twin sister? I don't know anything about twins. I don't know if you have twins.
No,
I don't.
So you guys went to college together?
Yeah. We pretty
They're on
much
the
did
same
everything
team.
together.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Everything together until
That's
we
amazing.
weren't playing soccer anymore.
Is that all positive? Is there negative to that? Is it hard to establish your own kind of sense of self and identity with that?
All great questions. I think growing up, it had its pros and cons. Pros meaning, especially in the soccer field, we kind of knew where each other was on the field all the time. It established a sense of comfortability automatically walking into, like, when we got recruited and you join a new team and you don't know anybody, I have an automatic built-in best friend and we click. It seemed to become almost like a weapon for the coaches as well because we were always in sync. But again, I come from a very competitive family as well, being raised in sports. And so I'd say a con of it was we were always at the same time in competition. Mm-hmm. And even when we didn't want to be, it's natural for a coach or another human to compare the two of you. And okay, who's better, who's not as good? Like, there were instances where I would get pulled up onto a higher team and she wouldn't. And then I would have to navigate, do I not celebrate this win because out of sake of her emotions? And same thing for her in her own life as well, that we've balanced. But I'd say that was probably the biggest con in general growing up as an identical twin, is struggling to figure out who you are on your own. So I think as you grow up, you start to acquire some of things that she does, and then she acquires things of me, and then it's okay, who is McKenna and who is Mikayla, So I think to answer your question, I'd say pros and cons for sure. And it wasn't probably until later in college that we started to really figure out who are we, what are we good at. It was after soccer. I think so much of both of our identities was wrapped up in the sport version of us, the athlete, the soccer player, and not, okay, what else is there to me besides being an athlete? And so I think once we hit college is when we started to explore our own journeys there.
So what about now? How often do you communicate or connect?
Very often.
Every day?
I'd say we're probably the closest now that we've ever been. But yeah, pretty much every day. She's actually recently pregnant. So she's due in October, which is super exciting for the family. It's the first one. She's having a baby girl. So very excited about that. And I'm excited to explore being an auntie and all that fun stuff.
Is there any competitiveness there? I have a lot of clients that will tell me that. My sister's getting married and I'm the single guy, I'm the male at 32 and everyone's giving me grief about it. Is there any of that? As you get older, you get married, kids and all that stuff. Does that still come into play when it comes to competition?
I'd say I'm in a very healthy spot with all that now. But rewind to kind of like before I moved to Scottsdale, was a lot of that. I was recently out of a breakup at that time. So it's been, a little over 2 years since I moved to Scottsdale. I'd moved home. So I was living in San Diego for 8 years total. So college for 4 years, then a few years after, stayed for work. Went through a relationship, ended. I lost myself in that. I didn't really know who I was. And at the same time, my sister was extremely happy in her relationship, heading towards engagement. And I was navigating a little bit of that jealousy or envy, or like, when is it going to be my turn type of thing. And that it did come out in our relationship a little bit. That was tough. But I knew deep down I needed to find out who I was. And because I was not happy with where I was at in my life, I knew I could put two and two together. I was self-aware enough to be like, okay, this is why we're having tension and why I'm like frustrated or angry at her for no reason. So I knew I need to figure out who I am. It's not about what she's doing in her life. What is good for McKenna right now? What does she need to go do? So yeah, we battled a little bit of that. I want to say maybe 3 years ago. So anyways, moved home from San Diego, back to Huntington Beach, just to figure out like where I wanted to go next. I felt like I really outgrew San Diego, had the ex relationship there. I felt like I was very reliant on all of my friends around me I didn't know how to be alone at that point. And so it's like, okay, first step is just moving home. Let me quiet the noise. I don't want to feel like I'm getting asked to go out all the time. And partying was a big thing in San Diego. It still is. It's a big reason probably why I left. It was really hard to say no to all that stuff. And I couldn't focus and just be like, okay, who am I? What do I want to do? I'm having an identity crisis. So I moved home. That was the greatest decision I could have made. I got really, really quiet and honed in on what are my goals? What are my dreams? Who do I want in a future partner? I know that I want to get married and settle down and have kids, at a relatively young age. How do I make that happen and stop looking at my sister and her journey as a comparison and just be my own person? So
what was it about Scottsdale in particular? Mike has been here for a long time.
Yeah.
What was the reason to come here?
Great question. I think I was home for about 6 to 9 months before I actually made the move. But in that time, I was doing a lot of just self-work, getting really back deep into my faith. I grew up in a Christian household. God is, I'd say, who saved me at that time. So I was researching like where I would want to move. I didn't want to go somewhere where I didn't know a soul. I think that was a little too out of my comfort zone, but I didn't want to know too many people where it didn't force me to branch out and meet new people. I was looking at Nashville at the time. I had only one family friend there and that was it. And I was like, oh, this would be great. I love the Southern country culture, you name it, without really considering, okay, this is really far from home. I only know one person. It has 4 seasons. I grew up in Southern California. I'm used to perfect weather pretty much year round. I never really actually thought about all those things. And then I was out with some friends in Newport Beach one weekend, and it was my best friend from college and her now husband. I was updating them on life, and I was like, oh, I'm looking to move to Nashville. And they were like, why? Why Nashville? And I was like, honestly, I couldn't tell you. I just see everybody having so much fun there. And they're like, have you ever thought about Scottsdale? And I was like, I don't know why I've never thought about it. I've visited so many times. Every time I've been here, I have so much fun. I have a good amount of friends, not too many where I felt like I was not going to actually go out and meet new people. He's kind of like a second uncle here as well. So once we started to talk about it, it started to become more real of like, oh, actually, I could see myself here. And every time I visit, I always say, I wish I lived here. It's so much fun. The culture of the people here is not too different from the pace in San Diego or even Orange County. So it's also a 45-minute flight from home. So if I ever want to go home and see family, I can do that as well. So that's kind of what led to.
So you think this is where you're going to stay? Or
for the short term, my boyfriend and I, we've built a pretty good community of friends here in life. So I think the idea of leaving that right now doesn't really, there's not as much for me back home. Like I have my sister, her husband, my mom. So it's like I have a niche there, but I haven't really kept in touch with a lot of people from high school. All my friends were made in, or my best friends were made in San Diego in college. Now everybody's spread out. San Diego would really be the only place that I would probably move back to in California. But then again, it's an hour, like why I would just move back to Orange County in that instance. I love the fact that I left that city on my own. I came here, I built a brand new life, did the whole apartment hunting on my own. It was the first time I furnished a place by myself, the first time I was living alone. And then I met my now love of my life here, and he was kind of in the same boat at the same time, doing the same thing. And so I think what Scottsdale means to me is like where I found ultimately who McKenna is. I found the most strength. I'm secure in who I am. Me and God did this. We got me here. And I took the leap of faith. And so I think the idea of leaving this place would also be shedding that piece of me. Short term, I have no intention of leaving. But at the same time, my sister's about to have a baby. And do I want to be constantly traveling to be there? I want to be a really close aunt and spend time. And I like the idea of being down the street. So yeah, and fortunately, my boyfriend's family is also from Orange County. He grew up in Orange County, but we didn't actually meet until Scottsdale, which is another funny story. So him and I talk about it a lot, where it would be easy to go back home. If we are going to move, it would be back there. It's just, we don't know when. We're having fun here and enjoying the newfound life we've both created for ourselves.
I got a question about soccer. Let's go back a little real quick, because I was going to ask this earlier. Influences, heroes, like when you were a young girl, you know, all these sports, which I'm a big fan of. I think parents should put all the balls in front of you. Yes. Tennis ball, golf ball, you just pick one you like. Yep. And you pick soccer, right? So who were some of those influences for you in soccer? I'd
say Alex Morgan was probably my idol growing up. She's probably the way I looked to be like, okay, when I was like 8 years old, I want to be a pro soccer player. Was in my mind like where my dream was to go. And so I looked at her a lot, and just the women's national team in general. I was obsessed with the USA team. I actually got to go to a World Cup, I think when I was in high school. It was the one in Vancouver.
I was there.
Really?
I was there.
Wow. What year was that, by the way?
I think it was 27. Wait.
Can't remember.
20. I graduated high school in 2016.
Okay.
And I think I was a junior in high school at the time. I could be way off on the timelines.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Anyways,
yes,
Mia
that was
Hamm,
kind of my.
I'm surprised you didn't say Mia Hamm.
Mia Hamm. So actually, funny enough, she wasn't coaching, but she started working at the club team I was playing on pretty much from like most of my duration. It was a club team based out of Newport Beach, California, Slammers FC.
But you forget though that Mia Hamm is
I get it.
prior to Alex.
No, you're right. Yeah,
she was still big though. But my generation was probably Abby Wambach, Alex Morgan, Rapinoe, and that now they're all retired, obviously. But
And they
They
all
were
live in
kinda
Orange
who-
County, by the way. So Tish Venerini,
Really?
who played on that team with Mia Hamm, went to UNC with Mia
Okay.
Hamm, is from Modesto, where I grew up. And we text each other from time to time, and she'll say, oh, yeah, all of us, we all live in Orange
Yep.
County.
Yep.
So they're all,
Like most
that's what
people,
they all
like,
do.
wanna
They do
end up
soccer
there.
camps. I was going to ask that question because I know there's a lot of the gals down there that are retired or big influences.
I'd say one of the coolest things for me, and I don't know if that was just the name that our club team started to carry. I'd say it was one of the top clubs in the U.S. that I got to play for. But Kristen Press, who went to the national team from my club as well. And a lot of them would come back and play during the summer. They would come and train with some of the older club teams. So we got to like train with some of the players from the national team or top 10 D1 schools. And they would come train with us that I'm like, I almost looked up to them more because it was more tangible to me and they weren't a famous person. They weren't a celebrity. Obviously, Kristen Press eventually became one, but it almost made it seem like, wow, this is actually more attainable for me than just seeing Mia Hamm on screen. Yeah. I've gotten to play with this girl and I beat her to the goal. Okay, so is it doable for me, you know? So I'd say the older years where it was a little bit closer to the people that were actually making it on the national team. Like Mallory Pugh, I played against her. Remember, she used to dribble the entire team and score a goal. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. She's starting for the U.S. Women's national team. But
so how did you decide after you get through school and all this, how did you decide, I want to go into startups, I want to go into tech? How did you get into customer success? How did you decide that startups was the right channel for you?
Yeah, great question. I think as I was looking at a career in general, I'd known that I always just want to help people, whatever capacity that actually looks like. But I grew up with a pretty entrepreneurial business-minded family. My grandpa started our family business back in 1975, selling chlorine out of his garage, doing a garage sale. This was in Florida at the time. And he'd realized, oh, wow, chlorine is a massive necessity for people who have swimming pools. So I ended up starting this family business. And so I grew up around that energy. My mom worked for the business. My uncle ended up taking it over. So from a young age, I was always around business. So I just knew if I wasn't playing soccer, there was some type of path forward into business. Fast forward to junior year of college, as it was rounding out, I knew, okay, the only work experience I've had was like working for a couple months for my family, which was great, but it wasn't extensive enough on a resume to probably get hired on a full-time position. So senior year, and what a big thing at USD was through the business school was getting internships for class credit. Okay, let me just start there. I was a communications major and a minor in marketing, which was basically code for I have no idea what the hell to do with my life.
I thought that was poli-sci.
I thought that was psychology.
Poli-sci.
Maybe everybody says that, but yeah, I was like, okay, how can I party, play a sport, and balance school? What's the easiest major at the time when I got into that major, I was playing soccer. So that was my priority. And by the time I ended up quitting soccer, it was too late into the degree to go switch around. And I wanted to graduate in 4 years. I'm like, I'm not a school person. Like, I just want to go out into the real world and work. So anyways, I got the opportunity to do an internship for class credit for school. I ended up seeing our co-founder and CEO repost something, I think, on her Instagram story of another girl who had just closed out an internship. I was like, I didn't even know they were hiring. I had known they had just started, brand new tech company, very small, not a lot of money. I didn't even know that they were hiring. So I saw that and I was like, oh, they probably could use some help. And I will likely wear multiple hats because it is a startup. And I, at that time, still didn't know what exactly I wanted to. I had no idea what I was good at outside of playing soccer. I just knew that I had drive. I was tenacious. I wanted to see what I was good at. I knew I could finish. The fact that I could finish school, I worked hard. Like, I always put that first because I knew I wanted to get a good education. I wanted to get a good job. I knew the work ethic was there. It was more so about what am I actually good at and what would I actually like. So I felt like a startup presented the best space to be able to figure out what exactly that was versus being like, oh, I'm just going to go become another digital marketing intern or digital marketing analyst at a corporate company. I didn't really want to be in corporate because it felt like it was going to put me in too much of a box. And I've never been somebody who wants to be put in a box. I want to create my own path.
So you do all these different roles when you get there. How do you kind of hone in on the role you're in now? What made you fall in love with that specific function?
Yes. So I loved almost like it kind of mapped to a similar energy I would feel when I would step out on the soccer field. It was like good nerves where it's like I knew I had to perform under pressure, and the idea of getting on a meeting with whether it was a sales call or a client, I always felt like I stepped into this new persona of myself when I got on that call. And always wanting to achieve a positive end result on that meeting. And so I knew as I navigated between sales, marketing, client support, I've even been in product at the company. So pretty much all for the first 3 years when I started there. It was a lot of just doing sales calls. I was helping design different decks. I was talking with our engineers and figuring out drumming up the next best feature. And then I was troubleshooting some client issue with somebody because we didn't have a big team. I was running onboarding, then I'm implementation, then I'm success, then I'm renewing. It's a lot to carry at one time. But I think where I felt like I thrived the most was almost from a consultative perspective with the client. It brings in, at the end of the day, I want to help you. I get so curious about your problems and let me dig into my repertoire, my brain, or what can we do at the company to help you in any way possible, regardless of the end result. Yeah, it's great to renew this client. It's great to get their business, but am I helping Sarah across from me? That's what actually gets me up in the morning.
When people ask you, what do you do for a living? What do you say?
Tech sales.
She doesn't say.
Is that what you say?
You don't say that you help people.
I don't.
She says
Yeah,
tech
which
sales.
I should. Which it's funny. It always leads to like a 10-minute conversation.
So that's her next book, From the Pitch to the Pitch.
Yeah,
You get it?
I get
It's
it.
good,
I
huh?
get it.
That's your book.
I don't
You
say
can
a
take
lot
that.
because then people ask, what is that? Instead of me just leading with it, then I'm just giving too much information without even being asked.
Well,
So,
the question that I was thinking about was, do you love what you do, or do you love what it forces you to become, who you have to become in order to do that function? I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
It's a good question.
that's a great question. I think that's something I'm still figuring out. I think I love that I get to help people every day in some capacity. And I think over the last almost 7 years, I've gone through a lot of shedding identities of myself. I've almost had to evolve and adapt who I am as the company's evolved and adapted. And it's a great question. It's as if, am I evolving into what the company wants me to be, or am I evolving into what McKenna wants me to be? So
Right.
I think that's something that I'm still navigating, but I got really into just mental health and mindfulness and mindset and all this stuff as I was going through that little bit of an identity crisis, figuring out, okay, I can find aspects of this job that I do love. And just be like, I don't have to love my job to find reasons to enjoy my job. I know that this job challenges me. This job, no day looks the same because I get to wear a few different hats, which is best suited for my personality. I love who I work with. I'm big on, I know that I want to be in a team. I don't want to just be a one-star show. And I think I've had to pull back the layers of working to realize, okay, I know all the core things that I would like at a job. And it doesn't necessarily matter where it is. If I can find those core things there, then I can be happy. And that's enough for me today. I think there's a lot I dream about outside of this that I don't know is the right, which everybody says, it's never the right time. No time is ever the right time. You kind of just take the leap of faith. But for where I'm at right now, it's where I feel like I'm supposed to be. And I know that it's leading me to something greater beyond this.
So what is that next greater? What's the next chapter?
I've always talked about it amongst my friends or my family. Residential real estate is something that just really excites me. My sister, actually, she got a major in real estate and finance. And then her husband is in commercial real estate as well. My brother's in commercial real estate. And so I've, over the last few years, been around a lot of that lingo. I love interior design is so fascinating to me. I actually took one semester of architecture back at USD because I was like, oh, interior design sounds fun. Then I was like, okay, actually I suck at architecture. But I have an eye for what looks good in a home, and I have an eye for what looks good on the outside of a home. I know that it wouldn't be commercial real estate. It's too dry for me. I don't want to work in warehousing and industrious, all that stuff. And then I think just the financial opportunity there for sure. And then it provides an in-person element that I've actually never had. Just because I graduated during COVID in 2020. Our business went pretty much fully remote / hybrid. And then I moved. So I've been.
Did you actually
much
get a
fully remote.
graduation?
We did a virtual graduation
So
2020, but then a
crazy.
year later, we did have an actual. So I got
It's
to
such a
walk.
weird time in our lives, all of us.
I know, it feels
my kids were in
forever ago.
transition between two schools at that time. You
Yeah.
just look back on that and you always think about how much more resilient you probably are because of what you went through at that juncture of your life, right?
Yeah, it was an interesting time. But the one thing about not being in San Diego, we're a company, is that I don't really have an in-person element other than maybe 2 times a year when we have a QBR.
So you crave that a little bit.
I do. And I feel like more of who McKenna comes out. You get the more true side of me versus I feel like when I'm on Zoom calls all day with clients, it's like I'm putting my best foot forward. Of course, you get the Zoom personality, right? And it's a little bit more, not that I'm not put together in the real, but it's, if you guys can relate to that, when you hop on, I feel like a Zoom call.
Oh, you go into character sometimes.
Yeah, you go into character. And I feel like when you do it for so long, I've built a Zoom character that I step into the moment that call starts. And is it me or is it this character that I'm playing versus I feel like when I'm in person, I'm just being me, I'm natural. And I haven't really had the opportunity to explore that aspect.
I think that's the goal that so
business.
many people are looking for in business is how can I find a role or a job function where I don't have to put on this caricature
Yeah.
or this avatar. Or
It's funny how
whatever.
people do that.
Yeah.
I was on a big group call with a big insurance company the other day, and I got off the phone after the fact. It was like, I don't know, 30 boxes on the virtual. Oh, is that the guy that looks like so-and-so? Like everyone tries to make, because they don't know them. Like,
Yeah.
oh, here's this little box. And then they go, oh, she's the one that looks like Demi Moore, right?
I've
You ever
actually gotten that.
You ever got that before?
Yeah. That's so funny. I'm like,
No, I'm just saying that's what people have an association
Yeah.
with this little tiny box, and you're like, that's not who I am. But that's
Yeah,
not the
no.
world we grew up in sales. It was like you were in that office, man.
yeah.
8 to 5
day.
every day. It's on
Yep.
Saturday, Sunday, closing deals quarterly. So
Yep.
that paradigm shift is massive. I'm always curious when I talk to younger
Mm-hmm.
professionals how that's really impacted you from the get-go, from
Yep.
COVID, graduation to who you are today.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is. I think the only difference is I don't really have anything to compare it to. It was my baseline. Whereas if I was doing that beforehand and then I did that, then I would have some type of comparison to be like, what do I prefer? So that's the thing is I haven't really known, but I feel like that's what I crave more than anything. And that's why I say real estate would provide me the opportunity to be in person a lot more. I think also too, the opportunity to meet people, and it's a space that homes are a necessity.
Must have
It's
versus
not a must have for
nice to have.
the whole
Yeah.
world, right?
Yeah.
So like I love the fact that I could build more of a one-on-one close relationship with somebody. And finance is a really personal topic. When they go to buy a home, and do they have the budget for it, and what are they going to have to sacrifice with this? And helping, the excitement I could get from helping somebody purchase their first home, being able to be a part of that energy is so fascinating to me that I would love to get to experience that one day, where it doesn't, I look at it as almost like it wouldn't feel like work. Yes, there would be aspects to it. It's not like it would be easy. I would have to grind, and I would have to go out and build my network and meet new people. And it's going to be uncomfortable at first, but like, I can't think of a better way to almost feel like I'm like, who I am is just how I'm going to show up in work as well. There's not as much of a disparity.
Yeah.
Of course, you want to put your best foot forward, but I feel like it'll feel so natural that I'm helping somebody and not as like salesy, so to speak, where I will rely on my relationship and my connection with that person and the trust we've built. And that's why they would buy from me versus somebody who may be giving them a better deal, but do you want to work with me or do you want to work with them?
I think younger professionals in real estate have it in a good way compared to when we were selling to real estate industry. When you're younger, because social media, you know
Yeah.
how to brand yourself and market
Yep.
yourself. Back in the day, it was the average real estate agent in the United States was 54 years old, mostly a woman, non-educated. I knew the
Yeah.
stats cold because we used to consult that industry. Much different demographic now.
Yep.
So if you were to jump into that, you already get way ahead of that demographic because you know how to play the game. You're a brander. You know how to do
Marketing.
that, right?
I've done a million things.
Yeah.
Now you just have to start working on branding yourself.
Yeah.
Correct.
marketing.
Yeah, that's something I'm a pretty private person as well.
Gotta
So
start
that's
trying to
something
nudge
that
that
like,
part forward a little bit, maybe.
yeah, which I'm not opposed to. I think it's just more of the, okay, what's on the other side and then keeping that up.
So are you a fan of social media or no?
No, I am.
Are you?
I've got Instagram, I've got TikTok, I've got.
But how about are you on
I'm not-
it?
I'm
or
not
are you like
like,
owning it?
The only thing that I actually post stuff on is Instagram. It's more just like Instagram stories. I post personal things, but my profile's private. I'm not like, I don't use it as a way to generate eyeballs to me. It's more so like keeping in touch with friends, seeing what's going on in everybody's
Well,
else's life.
that might change as you
Yes.
move forward in
Yes.
your
They'll have to
Yes.
change.
Yeah.
If she goes into real
She goes to
estate,
Real estate, that'll have to change.
Yes,
right?
and that's kind of like I know that that's on the horizon, but
Yeah.
as far as for what I've been doing, LinkedIn is probably more of
Yeah.
the where I should be focusing my time to grow my platform. And a lot of the people that do follow me or I am connected to are specifically in marketing or in sales, so I could have insights for them that they could
Yeah.
take back with them. Versus, I feel like real estate, it would be leaning way more heavily into Instagram, the more broader socials than
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok. It's
So I have a
way
question
more
for you real quick.
opportunity.
so we bring you back in a year. So you're to the date. You sit on this couch. What's happened in your life in the last year?
Hopefully, I'm engaged.
Oh,
So that
okay.
means-
Somebody's on the clock.
Okay.
Somebody's on the
We're gonna
clock.
watch this
Hey,
later too.
Is
but
he watching? We're going to see this episode.
no,
on the clock.
we've talked about it. Now our timeline is sometime late this year. Is
Okay.
is the goal? But
And then shortly
outside
thereafter,
of that,
you got your sister having kids.
wedding, kids, all the things. If I would like to start having kids by 30, but again, you
Yeah.
never know. Life happens.
All the
but that's
things.
those are my plans. I think long term. I grew up with a stay-at-home mom, and she's amazing. I think it's the greatest job in the world anybody could possibly have.
It's a
And,
hard
like,
job.
I know, yeah. Long term, that's probably my end goal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know I'm going to probably want to do other things as well because I've been in business my whole life and I love that aspect of who I am. So I'm sure that I'm going to have some type of anything I could still work from home, be part-time, still challenge my brain in that capacity. And I also want to show my future daughters, God willing, I can have daughters,
You see
that
how
they
she said
can be
that so
more.
quick? She was just so assumptive.
She knows.
She said she was
She
so
knows.
assumptive.
She knows what she
I do
wants.
know.
Well,
I
not
want
future
I want
daughters.
boys, I want girls, but I want them to also look up to me and see that they could do both
great.
as
Love it.
well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have no idea what is all going to happen. That's what I want for my life. But in a year, as far as career goes, hopefully exploring what the residential real estate space
Okay.
looks like for me.
Cool.
I think I need the starting place is learning and educating myself to begin with. And then obviously it's path to getting a license. And then I do have a few connections in the residential real estate space here as well as back home in Orange County. So I know that there are doors
Love it.
that I could walk through that would give me the opportunity to explore if this is something I would even want to do.
Yeah.
Fear has held me back a little bit on just taking the leap to do it on the side. And it is hard to balance a full-time job that takes so much of me. Startup is a lot different than just showing up to your,
Yeah, it's good.
corporate
All right,
accounting job.
we got some rapid fires. You got some?
I don't got a rapid.
I got a
You
few.
give it a rapid fire. We
All
got
right.
a rap.
All right. Favorite part of San Diego?
The beach, I'd
Which
say.
part? Which beach?
Well, Mission Beach, Pacific Beach is where I spent most of my
Okay.
time in college and
So
right
was
after.
it Mission or PB? Which one? Got to pick one.
PB.
All right, PB. Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite book all time?
I think I'm reading it right now. It's called Let Them by Mel Robbins.
Mel. We love Mel. Love me some Mel. Favorite movie all time?
Oh, that's a tough one. The Dictator.
The Dictator.
I've
It's
Did
hilarious.
not
That's
see
humor.
that coming.
I didn't see that one coming. I was saying like The Godfather.
That's a unique
I just
answer.
watched The Dictator and Borat, so maybe that's
That's
why.
a unique answer.
This guy's brilliant. He's
He's so
brilliant.
good.
Biggest influence in your life was who?
My mom.
Mom?
Yeah.
What's one momism that you'll never forget? She said this to you from day one.
Oh, gosh, she said, I feel like so many momisms, so many one-liners. I don't know that I could pinpoint one.
Yeah.
I just feel like her aura as a mom, I'll use a term to describe her as who is Janet Doe. She's very sacrificial. She's always put her children first, her husband first, her extended family first before herself. She's a very selfless human being. And I feel like I've acquired a lot of the same characteristics and something that I use as a comparison to me when I'm like, okay, when I think about what decision should I make or I need to put this person first, I think about my mom.
That's awesome.
We appreciate you
Yeah.
spending some time with us.
Thank you.
Been a pleasure to get to know you a little bit more.
Oh,
We're gonna have to take a little picture and send it to
Yes.
our friend Ada.
Yes.
Yeah. There.
And Sam as well. I don't think she knows that I'm here. Unless you told her.
I may have told her. All right, everybody. Thanks for another episode of the What's Your Story podcast. I'm Scott Leese. This is Mike Lindstrom. Give us a follow, share, tell everybody about the show, and we'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, Mike Lindstrom here. Thanks for tuning in to What's Your Story with Mike and Scott. Make sure to hit the subscribe button for new episodes every Tuesday morning and check out a few of our previous episodes below. We'll see you next time.